Hello and welcome to Shannon Gardens. Thank you guys so much for joining me. So as it's gotten so chilly outside, I thought that now would be a great time to discuss houseplants and indoor gardening. So I've got a couple of new houseplants that I've picked up recently here, and I need to repot those. So I wanted to take you guys along with me in that process of repotting, as well as discuss some of the characteristics about the two plants that I did pick up. So with that, let's get to it.
All right, here we have our first plant, which is the Raven ZZ plant or Zamioculcas zamifolia. I hope I said that correctly. I think the foliage on this plant is so neat because it's this dark, almost black color, but it's got a purplish green tinge to it. These are known for being low maintenance and hardy. They need airy, well draining soil and have thick rhizomes to help make it drought tolerant as they store water. And because of this, the plant will need to be allowed to dry out thoroughly between watering. The foliage of this plant first comes in as green and then darkens over time. They can be grown anywhere from medium to bright indirect light and are said to be able to grow in lower light as well, although it may not grow as much or be as attractive in lower light. Now, it does say to be sure to protect it from direct sun, though, as it may get leaf scorch. The ZZ plant does well in humid conditions but doesn't require them. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that I did find upon researching that these plants are considered toxic to pets and humans if ingested, which is a good reminder to always research the plants that you're bringing into your home and landscape to make sure that it's suitable for your environment. Next, we have the Peperomia lemon lime, and just look at these beautifully colored leaves. There are more than 1,500 species of Peperomia that come in a variety of leaf colorations. These plants are epiphytes, which means that in the wild they can grow on tree bark. So with that, I'll be mixing orchid bark with my potting soil when I replant. These are also drought tolerant and low maintenance and are considered a clean air plant. They prefer medium to bright indirect light, which will help them maintain their bright foliage colors, but will need to be protected from direct sunlight to prevent leaf scorch. These plants need well draining soil and prefer warmer temperatures and higher humidity. Because they have more succulent like leaves, they require less watering than some other plants, and it's recommended to water when the top 2 inches of the soil is dry.
So I wanted to show you guys the two different potting mixes that I'll be utilizing today. First, we have the orchid bark potting media, and then we have all-purpose potting mix, and this is specially blended for indoor or outdoor containers and pots. Now I'll be using a combination of both of these for my peperomia planting, and then I'll be using just the potting mix for my ZZ plant. I also have this continuous feed, all-purpose plant food, and this is something that I'll be utilizing going forward once the plants do need to be fertilized. I may add a little bit today, but really the soil that I'm using already has fertilizer in it. So this is just something I wanted to share with you guys that I will be using once my plants do need to be fertilized. Okay, so we are ready to replant these pots. And the first one I have here is for the ZZ plant. As you can see, it's got plenty of drain holes in the bottom there. And I am planting in plastic pots. I prefer to do this method because I generally like to put my pots in decorative containers that don't always have the drain holes in the bottom that you need, such as this one. Actually, both of these, neither one of my decorative pots today have drain holes. So I did get plastic pots to put these plants in, and then I will place them in that decorative pot. So I've got my ZZ plant that's going to go in here, and then I've got my peperomia, which is going to go in this one. I think we'll start with the ZZ, and I'll show you guys a couple of things I noticed, which is why I want to go ahead and repot this plant. Now, it did say, and it's always important to research when you do get a plant to make sure that you're providing the proper environment for it, not just lighting and water and humidity, but also how the plant normally likes to live. So for instance, I did find when I was looking the ZZ plant up that they actually prefer to be a little more root bound. However, I did notice the rhizomes are bulging. I don't know if you guys can see that, but the rhizomes are actually bulging a bit from this pot. And that was one of the signs that it is time to repot. And I also could tell I have some roots down here at the bottom of this pot as well. So you can see that right at the bottom there. So I think I'm actually going to cut this away because I'm not easily able to remove it and I really don't want to damage my plant. So I'm going to grab some scissors and then we're going to cut this. Now I'm just using my gardening shears here. And you guys, if you have a chance and you're interested, take a look at last week's video as well, because I kind of go into my handiest tools that I own, and this is one of them. So I'm going to very carefully try to cut through here. So as you guys can see, it's very root bound right here. So it's a good thing that I am going ahead and repotting this. Now, bear in mind when you do repot that you want to only move up a couple of inches in your next pot size. And that is because it will have a tendency, if you go too large, it's going to have a tendency to stay wet. It doesn't have enough roots to drink that water, and it could lead to root rot. So you don't want that. You want to incrementally increase your size. You don't want to go really, really big when you're increasing to your next pot size. So 1 to 2 inches is about the rule for that one. Okay, here we go. Wow, look at that. All right, we got it out. Oh my goodness. This is definitely going to be happier in a larger pot. A larger pot here. And I am going to go ahead and fill it up. Now, when you are planting in your pot, you want to make sure that this root level is about an inch below the rim of your pot. So you'll see here in a moment, I'm going to put my potting mix down first, and then I will place my plant to where it's just about an inch below the rim of this pot, and then I will tuck in the soil around that. Right, you guys, so I have replanted this ZZ plant, and I was careful not to bury the crown of my plant, and I kept that at 1 inch below here, and I just tucked in my new soil around it after putting new soil on the base to make sure that I had it at the appropriate height here inside of the plastic container. And so now we're going to move on to our next one, and this is for our peperomia. I have a smaller container here, but it is larger than this container. And again, what I am looking for is, do I see any roots down here? Which I did see some. Another way you can tell, just like the ZZ plant, is you can dislodge it here. This one doesn't feel as root bound, but you can see here all these roots. So I'm going to go ahead and replant this as well. As I said before, and it looks like it even came like this a little bit, if I'm seeing this correctly, is I'm going to mix my bark mix with my potting soil. So I will do that now. Loosen things up a little bit here. And I'm just going to tuck this in and try not to make too big of a mess and not bury the crown of this plant. Okay, so I think we're done there. I've tucked my soil into the sides and I did my bark and soil mix. And now I'm going to water them and make sure that the water completely drains out through the drain holes. And then I will place them in their decorative containers. Now, I did want to also point out that both of these tend to be susceptible to root rot. And so be careful not to overwater. And also when you're watering your plants, be sure to water at the base here of the plant, at the top of the soil, and not on the leaves, so you don't get any fungus or any damage to these leaves. So I'm going to get these watered and drained, and then we'll put them in their decorative containers.
All right, you guys, and so here is the final product. We've got the ZZ plant in this bigger white container here, and I had a little bit of extra space in between the plastic pot that I put in there and the decorative container, so I decided to tuck in some moss. I'm not sure if I will leave it that way or not, but I went ahead and did it for the time being just to take up some of that space. And then I have the lemon lime peperomia here in this container, and I just think that those look so nice, and I'm so excited to add some more house plants to my little collection I have going.
Thank you guys so much for joining me. I really enjoyed discussing the couple of houseplants that I got and always enjoy gardening, whether it's indoor or out. So thank you so much again. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And until next time, happy gardening and goodbye.